The biggest thing's governance.
Sure.
I mean, I would blow it all up. I would just, it's not relevant anymore. And honestly, it never really was great. But we're at a point now where it's just dysfunctional. And nobody would operate a business, no one, the way we operate in college football.
Hello and welcome in. Today is a Monday edition of Always College Football. As we approach the end of February, we're starting to line up some pretty cool coaches. It was great to have Luke Fickell on the show from Madison, Wisconsin last Wednesday. But this week, we're welcoming on our old friend, Dabo Swinney from the Clemson Tigers. He's going to join us today. We're going to ask him all sorts of questions. I want to ask him a little bit about the state of college football. Look, as much as Dabo still feels young to me, and he is, the guy's been the head coach at Clemson for 15 years. He has seen college football shift right beneath his feet and has put together, even in different eras, a remarkable run of consistency and success. I want to see what he wants to see done with the college football model as we know it right now. So much about college football, obviously, is going to be kind of covered in a negative way, like, oh, it's not the way it used to be. Well, I want to get Dabo's perspective on that. What would he change? What would he adjust? I also want to ask him about his new offensive coordinator, Garrett Riley. He comes over from TCU. He seldom makes coaching changes on his own staff, but he felt like he needed to make an upgrade at that position. Garrett Riley's the man for that. So let's not waste any additional time. Let's go to the two-time national championship winning head coach. And gosh, I can't even count how many times he's won the ACC. It's Dabo Swinney, the head coach of the Clemson Tigers. I'm so happy to be joined by one of my favorite guys in the entire industry. He's Coach Dabo Swinney. He's a Bama boy like myself, even though I've adopted it. You're from Bama, Coach. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Good to be with you. Congrats on, man, all your success. And I guess this is this a new show that you got going on here?
You've been watching, Coach. I know you have. You've liked, rated, and subscribed. No, we've been around since the beginning of last football season. We started in July of last year. But by that point, you're already drinking through a fire hose, so I wouldn't anticipate you being able to dial into the podcast world. I understand it's good, but next year maybe you could dial it in. Does that sound good?
Yeah, I'll get it on my phone somehow.
Well, we like to celebrate college football here, Coach. Like, there's so much negativity around the sport. You've been around it for a while. I mean, you've seen it change in the blink of an eye. But I feel like so much of the conversation in the off season is like negative. Well, it's not the way it used to be. It's not the way it should be, et cetera. But we're kind of trying to create this program to kind of build it up and to talk about all the amazing positives that are happening within the sport. So as someone that's lived it, I don't want to call you old, Coach, but you've been around for a minute now. So how has the sport changed in your eyes over the last 15 years?
Oh, man. Well, first of all, I mean, I appreciate you doing that because, I mean, all we hear is the bad. And there's good and bad in everything. It doesn't matter what walk of life it is, but college football is got a huge platform and it's kind of in a fishbowl. And so, and we live in this clickbait world where everybody wants to they can't wait to find the negative and to promote the negative. And the truth of it is there's so much more good than there is bad. But unfortunately, the good doesn't, get all the ratings or talked about as much. People want the headline, the big click, the oh my gosh, can you believe this moment, as opposed to, man, this is one of a million great stories that come through this great game of college football. So I just finished this is my 34th year of college football. I went to Alabama in 1988 and played 5 years. And then I coached 8 years there. So I just finished my 20th year at Clemson. So this is year 21 for me here. So this is my 29th year coaching football. College football. I have a pretty good perspective. And I'm very unique in this profession that I really have every lens. I was a I wasn't even a walk on. I was like a notch. I was a crawl on. All right. I went through the old school weight room program just to get on the team with Coach Wingo, and they put you in. They'd literally lock you up and take you to jail now if you did those things today. But that's what made me who I am. And then I've been a scholarship player. I've been a GA. I've been an assistant coach. I've been a head. So 34 years of perspective. And man, the game, there's so many good things. My biggest frustration with this game, honestly, Greg, we're probably the only profession that I know of where the experts in the profession really have no say. And because there is bad, again, there's good coaches, there's bad coaches, there's good bankers, there's bad bankers, there's good teachers, there's bad teachers, there's good preachers, there's bad preachers, right? There's good politicians, there's bad politicians. There's good and bad in everything. We know that. But our profession, it really is. I mean, we have, like, we could fix, like, football people could fix football problems like that. But we really don't have the opportunity to do that. And it's one of the most unique things. It would be like you and I coming together. And you living in Birmingham now? Is that where you are?
Yes, sir.
So you and I coming together and saying, all right, just because we've had surgery before, you and I are going to go down to St. Vincent's and we're going to write all the surgical procedures of their operating room or whatever, even though we're really not qualified. We would never do that in any other profession. Like, we would listen to the experts. And it's not that you don't, but there's just a lot of football problems that football people really don't have say. And even the people who they've lived it and they have the perspective. And so it's unique that way. And I think that's what's led to a lot of, craziness in our world. Having said that, I do feel like for the first time since I've been a head coach, and maybe in a long time, I do feel like we are heading even though it's crazy right now, I think we're heading into a better place where we are going to have some type of new governance structure, where we can have a voice, where we can, have an issue at 9 a.m. and by 3 we fixed it. I think that day is coming for college football. But man, it's never been better when it comes to opportunities for young people and the lessons that this game provides. I mean, it's just, I have a PhD in 18 to 23-year-olds. I've been one. I've raised 3 of them. And for 30 years, I've been living with them. And here's the one thing I'll tell you about the 18 to 23-year-old. They hadn't changed. The world has changed around them, but they're the same. They're young. They have dreams. They have goals. They have fears. They have doubts. They need structure. They need discipline. They need guidance. They're just young people that are trying to figure it all out. And, man, there's no greater teacher than the game of football, in my opinion.
I would never push back on that. And to be honest with you, Coach, I couldn't agree more. I mean, look, when toe meets leather, the game's the same. It's actually, I think, in many ways better than it's ever been because of just how good the players have gotten. But if you look at just kind of everything externally, the opportunities for the players are there. You're 100% in line with that. But you referenced needing change and wanting to have a voice. Let's say Dabo Swinney is put to the forefront on that collection of coaches, which I think would be a tremendous addition to any governance that we have. What would be something you would emphasize in driving home to your fellow colleagues in the industry? What would you want to see changed about college football?
Well, I mean, number one, there's two things the biggest thing's governance. Sure. I mean, I would blow it all up. I would just, it's not relevant anymore. And honestly, it never really was great. But we're at a point now where it's just dysfunctional. Sure. And nobody would operate a business, no one, the way we operate in college football. And so, I would change the entire governance structure. So right now you have 2 things. You have what's called the Football Oversight Committee, and you have this NCAA Council. And the Oversight Committee, for example, And the world of Power 65 is different. We have this 131 Division I teams, and it's just not the same for, Alabama as it is. And I don't want to throw anybody out there, but
sure,
non-Power 5U, okay?
right.
It's just not the same. It's different. You have 100,000 seat stadiums versus 35,000 seat stadiums. There's a lot that comes with that. And so everybody has a different world that they operate in now, and then you have, it's not just Division I, it's 1AA or FCS, which kind of falls under that umbrella. So you have an oversight committee where they're making, and I think we have like 3 votes, for the Power 65. Yeah. And there's like 18 people or something like that. So, and you really don't have a voice. And so, again, what's very simple in our world, things that we could fix, it's just this bureaucratic process, and you're going to lose every time. And so it's going to take 2 years, or it's going to take something bad happening to create change. So that's one. And then you have what the NCAA Council, and that's like a whole nother deal. So now it's not just the football stuff. Now it's got to be the same for football and soccer and tennis, and that's not realistic. And so the intention is good, but the execution of it is not. And so I would honestly, if I was, had that power, I would blow it all up, and I would create some criteria. And here's this world right here, and I would separate football. Honestly, I would separate football. I would create some type of situation where you have a commissioner and maybe a board, and things could be streamlined and things could be efficient. And then, I still think there's a need for the NCAA and some type of tether to that. But then you take all the other sports, and they have their own governance structure, and it's just different because it is. And for a long time, nobody wanted to admit that. But as I said earlier, really for the first time in my career, I think all the key decision makers, whether they'll admit it or not, presidents, faculty reps, commissioners, ADs, I think they all agree with that. Yeah. Most. They may not publicly agree with that, but I think they all realize that we're in a situation where, okay, we really need, and just like when COVID hit, that really was a positive in that all of a sudden we needed football, and all of a sudden football people, I was on a committee meeting every week for a year. Yeah. And it was really cool to be able to have a voice. And I think that's ultimately where we need to go. Just blow the governance structure up, blow that up, do away with it, and let's get serious and focused about, okay, here's the schools that can operate, whether it's a new league, a new division, whatever it is. I think most football people know that's where it's going. So I would just say, why quit wasting time? We all know what's going to happen in 2 years or 3 years or 5 years. So why don't we go ahead and get there, and let's get on with it.
What do you think would be, obviously everyone points to, 32 in the NFL. What do you think? It's 65? Do you think it's less than that? I mean, what's the perfect number in your eyes as far as that division that could separate?
Yeah, I think it's probably less than that, Greg. I mean, and there's a couple other things. That's one of the problems is we're trying to be the NFL with 131 teams. Yeah. And we're trying to be the NFL with collegiate scholar athletes. And, it's interesting. And I get beat up for this all the time. I don't really care. It's like the only time we want to listen to the player on everything, like everything. And I'm all for expanding the playoff. Great. I got no problem with it. Sure. But I want to do it in a way that's healthy for the player. Yeah. And what bothers me about the expansion of the playoff is when all this was coming about, I don't know, a few years ago, we were kind of given a charge by our commissioner to go and talk to our team and so, and ask them, hey, this is what was coming down the pipe. Here's what it's going to look like. Wanted the feedback. And I met with my team. I'll never forget it, and I kind of laid it out for them. Here's where we are. And they all looked at me like I was crazy, like I had 3 eyeballs. Like,
yeah.
So
we got to play how many games? Wait, what?
You mean to tell me we got to start in July and we're going to finish later in January? Oh, and we just beat Alabama, and now we got to go play Georgia next week?
Yeah.
Or you beat Ohio State, Alabama, now you got to go play Georgia? I mean, it's like, and these are guys that have pro aspirations. And until you've been through a season of 15 games at this level, it's hard to really have that perspective. Yeah. And so the interesting thing about the whole dynamic to me, when all that was coming about, and so I was asking, I just gave the feedback, but nobody listens. Like, it's the only, like, we listen to the player on all these things, but when it comes to, like, they don't want to start earlier in July, they don't want to go later in January. Oh, finals? Who cares? Like no, it's like it just falls on deaf ears. And so, okay, because I'm like, all right, well, if we can't just keep expanding college football, and now where we are, you're gonna have to play 17 games.
Yeah,
and so that's a lot for a college player, and
it certainly is. There's no doubt. And I go ahead. I'm sorry, Coach. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's 100% true, and I couldn't imagine as a college athlete playing that many games. It'd be difficult for sure. I thought 14 was a lot, and now it being 15, I can't even imagine what 17 was like. I wanted to get you on talk Clemson football, but you're like, it's so incredibly good as far as speaking to the bigger picture. I apologize that we've gotten down a 15-minute rabbit hole about just what we can do to improve the sport, but you're great as far as perspective. But I have to ask you about your new offensive coordinator. I know it's an unusual transition, but I'm so excited to see what Garrett Riley is going to do with your offense. I love Brandon Streeter. I thought he was a good coach. I just think Garrett Riley is a super elite coach, a game-changing coordinator. So what went into that decision, and why was it Garrett Riley that jumped out amongst what was, I would imagine, a deep pool of candidates?
Yeah, well, Greg, you've been around long enough to know that, anytime you make a personnel decision, it's hard, especially when you love the people involved, whether it's a player, you're promoting a player over another guy, or you've been at the pro level and you understand where, how that whole world operates, and or you're dealing with a staff change. And we haven't had a lot of staff change. We've had some. I mean, I made a change with Billy Napier back in 2010. It was the right move for me and him. He's now the head coach of Florida. Yeah. I made a change with Kevin Steele. He's the defensive coordinator out there. It's not like these are bad coaches, but sometimes, there's a change that needs to be made. And the biggest thing for us, we had a great run for a long time. I mean, Chad Morris did a great job years ago. And then when he left in 2014, it was easy for me to promote Tony Elliott. And then we went on the best 5-year run in the history of football. I mean, we won more games than anybody in a 5-year span with Tony calling all the plays. And then when Tony got the Virginia job, Brandon Streeter, he coached Deshaun for 2 years. He recruited Trevor. He coached Trevor. He recruited DJ. He deserved the opportunity, and he had earned the opportunity. And the tough part about it was we got better this year in a lot of areas. We really got better from where, 21 was really a weird year for us, and we got better. But, when it was all said and done and you evaluate every year like you always do, I just felt like we just weren't quite where we needed to be. And sometimes you just need a change of voice, a change in energy, maybe a change in demeanor or confidence or whatever it may be. And so that's really kind of where it was. And then Garrett, obviously he's one of the bright young guys, and I really wanted something that we got to run the football, and a lot of people talk about the air raid and they get freaked out about all that stuff. But honestly, we're really not doing much different. It's really, football's football, right? I mean, you run 4 verticals, you run crossers, you run digs and quick game and screens and inside zone and counter. And, football's football, but but procedurally how you do some of those things, systematically maybe how you do some of those things, and obviously, how it's called and how it's taught, and just the demeanor is and the energy as well. So, it's easy to watch him and see why he's been successful. And then, what he did at SMU and for a couple of years there, and then taking over really basically the same group at TCU on offense. Yeah. I mean, it really wasn't hardly any difference. And they went from 5 wins to the national championship game. But so that's first and foremost, obviously jumps out at you. It was a very good match as far as just philosophy wise, schematically, as far as, what we like to do, what we've done for a long time. We got to get better throwing than catching. We got to get better in our passing game. We've been elite throwing and catching around here for a long time. And the last 2 years, we've not been what we need to be. And I think he can help us do that without sacrificing the run game. Again, he's an air raid guy, his roots, but as he likes to say, a power air raid. I mean, you look at their run game last year, that 1,400-yard rusher and did a great job. But so a lot of carryover, a lot of similarities as far as just the X's and O's of things. But I just felt like he was the new voice that we needed and a new energy. I thought it was the right timing as far as having a young quarterback in Klubnik coming up, and then obviously his background. He's Lincoln's brother. He's his own guy, but he's been very successful, and so it's exciting to have a young guy that's coming in here, and honestly, I vetted a few people, but it was really, if he was the guy, we were 11-3 and won the league. It's not like we were terrible. But if we could get him, I felt like it was the right time. And so it was a good fit for him. I think he's a guy that is going to have a chance to be a head coach. And I think he's going to make us better, and we're going to make him better and give him an opportunity to, when he does want to do that, he can be prepared to, take whatever job that he wants to take. So I'm excited about it. It's been fun. It's been a lot of energy. He simplified some things, and I think our guys have really, bought in wholeheartedly.
I think it's amazing. You said air raid twice in that answer, Coach, and I think Hal Mummy would kick both Lincoln and Garrett out of the air raid tree because they run the ball too much. Yeah, they run the ball way too much to be traditional air raids.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the one thing I used to just, Coach Leach, God rest his soul. I mean, everybody's dropping 8 and he's still throwing it.
It doesn't matter.
He don't care. He don't care. And so that's that true mindset. But I think that's one of the things that Lincoln kind of really changed as he grew and evolved and changed. And then Garrett and Lincoln were together a couple of years at East Carolina. But
yeah,
one of the things I've always liked about Lincoln, honestly, is their ability to run the football, especially with their gap schemes and the play action that comes off of it and some of the RPO stuff. I mean, they throw the ball as well as anybody, but man, they will gash you in the run game, and then being able to involve the quarterback like we've always liked to do. So again, Garrett just checked all those boxes, and then as we really visited and talked, it was just a good fit. We were a good fit for each other.
Coach, we'll get you out of here with this. We got to have you back. There's about 1,000 personnel questions I want to ask you, but we'll save those for the summertime after you go through fall. But you obviously, you've been at Clemson, have experienced unbelievable highs, championships, playoff bursts, consecutive 10-win seasons, consecutive 11-win seasons. It's ridiculous what you guys have accomplished over the course of your career. And I told you that before the Orange Bowl getting ready to call. It's like, man, it's a down year, but my goodness, you got down year by your standards because your standards are so incredible. And you guys have done such an incredible job of building a culture and a program that doesn't matter who the players are, it continues on regardless of the circumstances. So credit to you for that. But if you were to pick out one moment in the 15 years you've been the head coach of Clemson, what moment stands out to you as your favorite moment?
Oh, man. One moment. well, I probably don't get the job if we don't beat South Carolina and Coach Spurrier in '08 as the interim. So that was a. I'm looking at a picture on my wall right there. That was a pretty unbelievable moment because I knew I was going to get the job. And then, my first win as an interim up at Boston College, my very first win, that was an amazing experience. They're all special. Probably beating LSU in 12. The year before, we had given up 70 in the Orange Bowl, and it was like, oh my God. We won the league that year, but we got destroyed. And then we come back the very next year, and we got no business being on the field with that LSU team. They were unbelievable. And it was Odell Beckham and all that crowd, and we win the game with 2 seconds. And I thought that was one of the more special moments. Beating Notre Dame in 15 in a hurricane after not playing them since the 70s. Obviously, the national championship in 16 and Hunter Renfrow with 1 second. That was a moment of joy you never forget. All the championships, they're all great. There's so many over the years, but I think the thing I'm most proud of, as you alluded to, is just consistency. And we have changed the expectations, and that's great. We went 31 years without 11 wins around here, and we just had our 11th win season for the 8th time in 11 years. So the consistency is what we're most proud of on and off the field. But God, one moment, if I had to narrow it down to one, it would probably be that first South Carolina game, because again, if we don't win that game, I probably don't get the job. And they were better than us, but we found a way to win the game, and that allowed me to have the opportunity to get the job full time. And man, it's been an amazing. I'm starting my 15th full year, and it's been seems like yesterday. It's been an amazing journey. Lots of great days, some long days along the way as well. But man, it's all good. It's been a blessing, and most of all, just a joy to experience so many just great relationships. I've been here long enough. It's just a lot of great young men that have come through our program that are just great people in society now. And one of my favorite things is so many of my players have gone on to coach, and I love that.
Well, one other thing too, and I don't think he'd have a problem with me telling you, but you went and got Paul Tyson this year. And obviously Paul Tyson, he knows he's going to back up Cade Klubnik or at least push him or whatever it is, but he went to your place because he wants to be a coach. That tells you all you want to know. And that, to me, I think, coming from that family, knowing he's grandson of Bear Bryant, when he chose to play for you, that tells you all. Anyone that doesn't know Dabo Swinney and doesn't know the program he runs, that should be an indicator right there of the health of the program and the type of people you guys are attracted to the program. Coach, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I'm good to be with you, man. And that's a surreal moment for me too. I can't wrap my mind around the fact that this is like Coach Bryant's great grandson. That was my hero, and
right.
But we're excited to have Paul, and he'll do a great job for us, and we'll certainly he's going to help us, and we're going to help him, grow and reach his goals as well.
That's awesome, man. Well, we're so happy for you. We're so excited for you. Thanks for the great perspective on just where we're at in college football. No, very few people are more qualified or as qualified as you. So we appreciate that perspective, and we got to do it again in the summertime. We could talk some ball. Is that all right?
Well, thanks for doing it, man. And I mean it, man. Listen, there's so much more good than bad. There is. Every day, all we get just shoved down our throat is the bad, but there's so much more good in this game, and it's important that those stories are told and highlighted and articulated. So appreciate you doing that.
Absolutely, Coach. We appreciate you. Best of luck.
Greg.
Have a great spring, and we'll talk to you soon. What a great visit with Coach Swinney. He has, I think, great perspective, having been there for a very long time, and he referenced it. It hadn't even really crossed my mind, but he has seen college football at every possible level. From walk-on player to scholarship player to championship player, from coach, GA, receiver coach, position coach, all the way up to now head coach. I think it's pretty remarkable to have the perspective that he does. Obviously, he has a unique perspective too, having been at one place for 20 years. being able to assess, all right, here's how things have changed for our place. But I know we are still dealing with some of the challenges that we deal with. Here are some of the challenges some of my colleagues are dealing with, and just how it's different for every specific place. I think that's really beneficial. And I think he hit the nail on the head that if football breaks away, I think we'll be able to establish things a lot quicker. I think we'll be able to establish things more swiftly, and we won't have that bureaucracy that we're constantly having to deal with as far as getting things done. Also found it fascinating when I asked him, hey, coach, do you see right now it's 65 in the Power 5? And right now, remember, a lot of us have talked about, well, are the Big Ten and the SEC going to pull away? A lot of people have speculated on that possibility. But he, of course, being the head coach at Clemson, he's in the ACC. So the way people have described is the SEC and the Big Ten moving away. Well, the ACC is hanging tight alongside the Big 12 and the Pac-12. But clearly, Clemson, they don't operate like your run-of-the-mill Power 5 program. They're a superpower and have proven that with how they have invested in their own program. It's just about, look, as the landscape changes, how does that impact a team like Clemson? Of course, in another round of realignment, Clemson probably be the number 1 overall pick if you could just have your pick of the litter as to what team or program you want to add. But either way, I think Clemson's well positioned for success this year, and I don't see them going anywhere. Look, they're still the top dog in the ACC until proven otherwise by, say, Florida State. Clemson's still the team to beat. I expect them to be back in the mix, at least in the New Year's Six this year, and wouldn't be shocked if once we get into a 12-team playoff format, Clemson will find themselves in a position to potentially challenge for another national championship under Dabo Swinney's leadership. I have nothing but faith in that program, have nothing but faith in that coaching staff, and I still really like their personnel. That'll do it for us here at Always College Football. We'll continue to break down Clemson and so many other teams as we navigate throughout the offseason. We hope you're having a wonderful President's Day, and we appreciate you spending a little time on what is a holiday. We appreciate you spending that time with us. For Mark Kubiak, Jack Foster, and Jake, I'm Greg McElroy. We hope you have a wonderful day, and remember, it's always college football. Hey guys, it's Greg McElroy. Thanks for watching Always College Football. Make sure you like, rate, and subscribe to ESPN's YouTube channel and wherever you listen to your podcasts.